Guys, over the last 3 to 4 weeks I've been using a lot more lighter kit in aid to answer the question, can I use a rod and reel from AliExpress, Temu or any other Chinese store? Today we're going to find that out. Let's get fishing. So the first rod I'm going to show off is the Tsurinoya Dragon. I've got it paired up with a Tsurinoya Dark Wolf Ultra, which tends to be one of the kind of go-to, most recommended cheap BFS reels that you can get off AliExpress, Temu, and those other Chinese sites. The general impression I'm getting on some of this Tsurinoya brand is actually that they make some pretty reasonable stuff, especially compared to some of the other brands out there. Let me know down in the comments if you've used any of their stuff in the past, good or bad experience with it. I'd like to know, and I'm sure others would too. So in this video I'm going to be swapping between two setups I'm going to show off initially, talk about both, and I'll feather the rest of the video with short sessions I've had with a mix of the combinations of this kit that I did so I could get a really good feel of the reels and the rods. At this point I've caught plenty of fish on both rods, plenty of fish on both reels, but it has been interesting getting a feel for the rods and reels, how they behave in different configurations and with different rod and reel combinations. So let's get into it. Let's have a look at this first rod and reel combination, which is the Tsurinoya Dark Wolf Ultra and the Tsurinoya Dragon. So my immediate impression of this combination is actually pretty positive. Really robust feel to everything. Carbon fiber rod, light aluminium fittings with a few other carbon fiber things, cork handle, really comfortable, nice and easy to use. This rod is the Sougayilang 2.1 meter 0.8 to 5 gram casting rod. I've never seen it listed with a model name, but it's incredibly cheap and seems to be sold absolutely everywhere. It's got a real moderate action and a hollow tip. Because of that, it's got a real whip to the cast and should be capable of chucking those ultralight micro lures. Honestly though, it doesn't feel like great build quality and it's got lots of cheap plastic on the grips and hardware. The reel I've got it paired with right now is the HICC50. It's sold under a few names. I bought it under the Soloking acurra. I've read in a few places that this is essentially a cheaper clone of the Dark Wolf Ultra, but often people install better bearings to really step it up a bit. Again, everything in this setup is sold as BFS gear and should be capable of chucking those really small ultralight lures if set up right, especially if you're going to consider that bearing upgrade. Right now we're run down to a wire on the end of 0.25mm wire, nothing huge but nothing necessarily ultralight. We've got it paired up with a 2 gram jig head with a 2 gram small shad, so we're only casting around 4 grams total. And it takes absolutely zero effort to give it a little flick just to get it that sort of 10 or 15 meters. And I'm sure if we gave it a good old flick, we could get it over to the other side of this canal with ease. The retrieve is reasonably smooth. There's no jumps, no bites, nothing kind of out of the ordinary with the retrieve. And the ratchet on it is pretty much immediate. So if you do start trying to reel backwards, there is almost no movement coming back. On the rod, construction wise, it does feel quite cheap. The rod rings, which is something I didn't think I'd care about at all, don't really tend to let line fly through them quite as smoothly as it should. And the end rod ring, for some reason, still manages to cause tangles, even though it is sold with a supposed anti-tangle rod ring. As I mentioned, the rod is 4-piece and it goes together a little bit snugly, but it does have a tendency on this bottom section especially to come apart when casting hard. You'll see there's some minor damage on the bottom there where I flung a slightly heavier weight, and that bottom section did start coming apart, put some unnecessary stress on the bottom section, which cracked a bit of the carbon fiber. I think what I'll probably do is look at gluing that bottom section in. It'll sacrifice some portability, but it should add some stability in the cast and prevent those sections from coming apart. I'm going to jump over now to a little bit of lake fishing I did with the Tsurinoya Dragon and this reel. But we'll be jumping back to this session where I'm talking about the rods and reels a bit more. If anything in this video helps you, you agree with anything, disagree with anything, get down in the comments below and let me know. And if you would, chuck me a like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. But for now, let's get fishing. Another perch then. Let go. Pike. Yeah, tidy little tiny pike. Little perch are taking it occasionally, just picking up the bait in their mouth. But the perch are back, so we might switch over to a red coloured bait and see if we can't nab a slightly bigger one. Slightly nicer perch. Get this fella in the net. Well guys, it might not be a monster, but it's a reasonable chunk of a perch, about a pound. Let's get him back. Continuing on the fishing now, back to the Tsurinoya combo that we've got. The Dragon, the rod, to be honest, is really high quality build, a lot higher quality than even some of my kind of branded stuff that's available from most tackle shops. Some of my Abu Garcia kit, granted they do some fairly cheap entry-level combos and things like that. This feels slightly better constructed than that, and I really like the rod eyes on it. They're branded as the Fuji ones, which I think are, you know, supposed to be pretty good kit. I don't know enough about it. It's not really something I've ever cared about, but kind of the line just flies through them. Capability of this is a 4 gram jig head with a floating bait on, and I'm able to cast about 15 to 20 meters just with a little gentle side flick. I'm not putting in any effort. The rod tip is a lot stiffer than the other rod that I was using, and it definitely seems to lend itself to a slightly harder, higher casting weight. I believe it probably says on here, yeah, 3 to 10 grams. I have been chucking small baits. I've taken it down to 1 gram. I have tried some of my ultralight micro, and it will do it, but it's going to take some additional finesse. It's going to take those little chucks, and it's going to take some very careful setup of the reel. The reel, on the other hand, which is the Tsurinoya Dark Wolf Ultra, this thing is really smooth, really capable, really nice adjustments, really nice drag. I've come round to the idea of drag clicking as it goes out, which is something I was a little unsure about when I first got it, because I liked the silent nature of a lot of my other bait caster reels. This though has been a joy to use. This little bit on the end where it seems to be missing a small section, that actually I've gotten used to. You don't really notice it because it's pointing away from you, and really for me the thing that was bothering me was purely aesthetics. So from a usability perspective, it's absolutely fine. So the only downsides with this reel that I've really come across is the kind of tension control. It's got a very small range of movement in terms of where it's kind of either on or it's off, compared to the Dark Wolf Ultra, which audibly clicks when you change it. It seems to have these much more kind of gentle movements and a lot more control over it. That's kind of the only real bad thing that I would say about this reel. The braking system, mag braking system, is a little bit different, a little bit classic, where it's got the disc of magnets that moves forward, up and down. The Dark Wolf Ultra has the configuration where they kind of sit around the spool. I've not noticed a big difference on those personally. Good spot with lilies again here. I'm going to run them close under if we can, and around. There we go. Nice. About time. Definitely need the pliers for this guy, but we shouldn't need the net. Well, there we go guys, first fish to start, not a bad one. Easy little fish in that little half an hour. I'm just going to stick him straight back. That was a big rest then. Big rest. A big pull. Getting some big head shakes on this thing. That's an eel. That explains it. Oh, no. Bloody eels everywhere. Kind of want him to flick the hook. I would touch him. Slimy things, eels. Let's get him out and dealt with quickly. Nice. That smashed it soon as we went in then to pike, and we have only got fluoro on. I might change up to a wire after this one. Trying to put me into a snag. And he's in the net. Nice. Not too bad a little pike. Probably 4 pounds, reasonable condition. He hit that one right as soon as it landed. We're going to put a wire on, try and catch a couple more pike. Maybe we'll still try for the zander. Let's pop this fella back. So let's talk cost. This rod that I'm using, as I mentioned, is £10. It's about as cheap as you can get a rod from. It's available for kind of like quick delivery on these Chinese sites, so I think this one took 4 or 5 days to arrive. It cost £10 and it was on my door. The reel, similarly, you kind of wait for one of their deals, and I think I got the reel for about £30 delivered. So all in all, I've got a BFS capable, in theory, setup, and I think it costs about £9 more if I want to upgrade that bearing. So all in all, I think I've got a £50 ultralight BFS capable setup. But truthfully, don't expect much from it. The reel, I would personally say, is great. I would like to see it with the additional bearing. The rod, not very good at all, but
as a kind of quick, cheap purchase just to give it a go. Not something bad to give a try. So we definitely want to cover kind of the cost aspects of this Tsurinoya combo that I've got. Reel around about 45-50 quid, the rod about 60, so a little bit more expensive, and being a two-piece, it wasn't available on quick delivery, so it actually took about 6 weeks to arrive. Now for that sort of price, of that kind of 60 quid margin, brings you in a little bit lower than what I think is probably an off-the-shelf in the UK option. Generally costs you about 80 quid, so 80 pounds. So you know, a 60 quid rod, if you're happy to wait a little bit, is quite good. I can't compare those two rods, but compared to other rods that I've bought for around about kind of the 60 to 80 quid mark, this definitely kind of punches above its weight a little bit. I would say that it feels more in line with probably what is a £100 rod. So I think you get quite a lot for your money with this rod. And the reel, as I said, it is super smooth, runs really nicely. It's got some nice-ish features on it. Everything feels quality. The casing is light plastic, so that's the only thing, or at least it's powder coated, so it's got a cheap feel to the reel, but actually use of it feels very high quality. So all in all, for this combo, you're talking 45 and then 60, so it's just over £100. I would say this one is certainly capable of chucking lighter than kind of 2 grams, even though the rod itself is only kind of rated for that 3 to 10 gram casting weight. So considering the costs of this combo, we've got a 50-ish pound, 45-50 pound reel, wait for the offers, and we've got a 60 pound rod. That brings it in about 105, 110 pounds for a rod and reel combo that is certainly BFS capable, certainly capable of casting the recommended 3 gram weights, and probably capable, with a bit of careful setup, of casting down to about 1 gram. Little bite then. We're in. I would hope that it's a perch. Oh, that's a big pull. Just want to see him. Oh, it's a pike. Oh man, just trying to bring him out of the snags, and he flung himself probably the highest I've ever seen a little pike like that. I thought he was going to jump out onto the bank, spat the hook, and away he went. It's fine, we saw it, we know it was a pike, we know it was a good sized pike. Good fish to have on a setup like this, felt fantastic to play, and gives us a real good kind of demonstration of the capabilities of this rod and reel combo. Fish released himself. He took a big old jump and a little bit of slack line. He's off fine. So, you know, at the end of the day, fish is fine. We hooked into him. We've tested out the rod. We just didn't get to show him off to the camera. I think I've spoken about the rods enough. I'm going to cover this one again just so it's covered. So, rod construction, it was 10 quid. Is it worth 10 quid? Probably to the right person. Would I buy this same rod again? Probably not for me. Would I recommend it? Maybe to someone who just wants a quick chuck around with a light rod. Things I don't like, the kind of points where it connects, each piece goes together, are not hugely secure. The rod rings are not great, and the seating on the rod is completely plastic and probably prone to breaking. Rod tip's a little bit light, and that end rod ring is occasionally responsible for a little tangle, despite having a supposed kind of anti-wrap eye on it. And then the reel, which is the HICC 50, another kind of BFS capable reel, supposedly a good one for upgrading. I bought it under the brand Soloking as the Acurra. It comes under loads of other different brands. Would I buy it again? Probably not for myself. Would I recommend it as an entry-level reel? Yes, especially if you're kind of into tinkering, you fancy just replacing a bearing, which is a really simple thing to do anyway. But would I recommend it under, say, a £15 more expensive reel, the Tsurinoya Dark Wolf Ultra? Probably not, because even that reel is going to be capable of upgrading should you want, and it just runs smoother. It casts nicer, it lets line in nicer, it reels nicer. Everything about it kind of justifies that £15 more expense. And that's kind of a trend that I'm finding now, and I think that kind of matches a lot of stuff that comes from kind of AliExpress, Temu and stuff. Is if you can find a brand that is good, generally speaking, their stuff is good across the range. Now, that's not a recommendation necessarily for all Tsurinoya stuff, but keep an eye out for some of their kit and see if any of it works for you. Would I recommend this combo? Probably not. I'd say you're better off saving another 40 quid on top of this one and buying the other combo I've got. Or actually, I think it's close to £50, sorry, but I would probably say that that £50 kind of is justified in the additional quality that you get. So my overall recommendation, if you opt to buy a rod and reel setup for kind of BFS fishing, or just like fishing in general, or my recommendation, if you're going to go out and buy one of these setups, consider buying Dark Wolf Ultra reel, most definitely. Consider the Tsurinoya Dragon or one of the other rods from the Tsurinoya range that meets your needs, or consider checking to your local tackle shop or just an online retailer you've kind of got experience using. You'll definitely find some good options out there, and to be honest, you probably won't save a great deal on the rod front buying from China, and with the shipping times and things like that. If you want something quick, you know, on the rod front, don't necessarily consider the China option, because shipping can take up to kind of 6 to 8 weeks to arrive. A lot of nice looking grass to be fishing around here. Not grass. Ooh. Hello, Mr. Pike. That was kind of unexpected. Yeah, little snacks and such. And in the net. Well guys, to be honest, I think we were lucky to get that one. We have snapped the hook on him. We've retrieved both halves. We're happy. Fish is happy. Let's get him back. Let's catch another. Yeah, that stuff floating in the water is super cleared out here, and the water itself is pretty clear as well. Another fish, another pike. Little guy. Does he want to swim? He does. Not stripping line, let's loosen that drag a little bit. This one's only tiny, so bonus will be we're close enough now that once he calms down, we can just hand this one out. Come on, guy, keep your head in the water. If you're done, you're done. Well, guys, tiny little one, but that's fish number 2. Let's keep going.
So I think like everything on those sites like Temu and AliExpress, there are some really poor quality products about, but if you know what you're looking for, or if you know a decent brand, there are some really good ones too. So would I recommend buying rods and reels from AliExpress, Temu and these Chinese stores, especially when considering that kind of BFS setup? I think I would suggest giving it a go. Definitely look at rods and reels that are spoken about quite a lot online. Tsurinoya Dark Wolf Ultra is a fantastic example of that, and really try to avoid those products that are priced in a way that makes them feel too good to be true, or anything that makes you think, you know what, maybe that £10 rod is worth a try, because ultimately you're probably throwing away good money. Whilst reels are kind of one thing because there's quite an ease to delivery, they take a few days to arrive from China. The rods are kind of a different kettle of fish. They tend to take around 6 to 8 weeks to arrive for any of the stuff that's kind of packaged bigger. Two-piece rods, especially anything that seem to be slightly higher quality, seem to have longer shipping time, so you have to kind of cater for that. There are probably some decent rods at around about the same cost, maybe 20% more, that you'll be able to get from your local tackle shops or an online store. So maybe those are a better option. But really, I've been pretty impressed with that Tsurinoya Dragon, both in terms of quality and kind of experience with it. But I think that Tsurinoya brand is worth looking at a little bit further. Let me know down in the comments if you had any experience with their lineup, good or bad. If this video has been helpful to you in any way, please consider chucking a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Check out some of the other content on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.